friends, I'm in my studio. There's a little bit of chaos, but it just means it's well loved by my kids. I'm so excited to be back. I haven't done a video on this channel for a little bit. I've been busy. I was in Italy, and today we're going to be painting a Scottish landscape with watercolor. I'm excited though, because I want to tell you more about my Scotland art retreat coming up next August 2026, and it's August 22 to 29. So registration is opening up on the 17th. If you're watching this, it's a Friday. That's next Monday. Click the link below here if you want to learn more details and get on the wait list for your preferred room. But today we are going to paint from start to finish, get a nice little landscape going. I've missed being here on this channel, and I hope you will paint with me. So let's get to painting. So we're going to start with a light sketch with our landscape. And so I'm going to go ahead and start adding in some mountains, some hills, just kind of roughly putting in those marks. So I'm holding the pencil really far back, as you can see, and then just kind of putting in where that water line is going to be, a little bit of a piece of land here. And then just a little bit of water over here in this area. Over here to add in some more hills. These are the highlands. So pretty. So several layers of hills there. And then over here we can just kind of put in different colors. And then maybe some little marks for grasses or whatnot. So I just go really light with the sketchy marks before we put those in, just to have an idea. So, as we are talking about doing this Scottish landscape, I'm so excited to tell you guys more about my art retreat in Scotland and what that's going to look like. And so, I'm very excited because I have never been there before, and the venue is amazing, and we have so many fun things planned. So as we're kind of painting and chatting, we'll just go back and forth. I've got some really runny blue. I'm just going to start adding that in for my sky with my flat wash brush. Just back and forth. I've got this little border of tape, I should mention, just to keep my borders. And you can go over the pencil lines too. It's okay. Nothing bad's going to happen. So back and forth motion. I like to grab a little bit more paint, and with that flat side, just kind of go across like this, adding in some more water. It's going to give some texture for our sky, and we'll just keep it really simple like that. So for this part here, as this is drying, I want to start adding in my greens. So I've got random greens on my palette, and I'm just going to start putting this in, just dabbing. It's a very watery mix of green, a little bit of yellow. Just kind of add in whatever you want. The second layer is where we'll add in some definition. So in the Scottish Highlands, we're going to have the opportunity to do a lot of painting, of course. I like to do 7 to 8 painting classes when I do a retreat, if it's a week long, and that gives us a lot of time to just sit down for 2 or sometimes 3 hours, depending on what students want to do. 2 to 3 hours a class, right? And just going over, look at this, I was talking. If you paint your water green, you can just remove some of that and you'll add the blue later. But we're going to do all kinds of things. Flowers, sketching flowers, watercolor flowers, sketching and painting watercolor landscapes. We can sketch foods and buildings and objects we find around the grounds, and really try to let go of perfectionism in our art. Let's just keep putting in random layers. This doesn't really matter, so don't be afraid to put those colors down. It doesn't matter in terms of that fact that it's the first layer. And so we'll add in more details later, but right now you're just putting color down and maybe even some brown, dabbing in where you'd like with the brush. Sometimes along the water line, I like to add in some brown, but just have fun with this. Letting go of perfectionism in your art, which is something I really look forward to doing whenever I sit down. And of course, we're going to have some excursions. Now, if you are interested at all in this trip, as I'm grabbing some greens here, go ahead and click the link in the description of this video, because not only will you get to see the details when registration opens on the 17th, you'll get to actually register, but beforehand, you can go ahead, even just today, right now, so go ahead and click it, and you can sign up on the wait list for your preferred price point and room. And that way you can be on that list for when it's time to actually pay the deposit and really sign up, so that you don't have to worry about that. And all the details are there. We're just kind of going around adding in different, greens, popping in some green on top of this, wet on wet. We're gonna get a lot of texture, but I like that. I think it's gonna be beautiful. For this one in the back, I'm just gonna go with a brown. So a little bit of brown here, dabbing the brush because I know it's gonna spread everywhere. Just adding a little bit of that brown in here. First layer, pop in some brown if you want to. It's all gonna kind of meld together. So we plan on having so much fun. As this is starting to dry, I want to put in a little bit more color here in the sky. So clean, damp brush. Let's grab a little bit more of that blue. It's kind of a navy blue. Dab the brush, and then just with the flat side, left and right, just adding in a little dabbing, a little bit more watercolor for some moody sky. So we'll be visiting St. Andrews, which is a very beautiful and classic thing to visit in Scotland. We will also be visiting Loch Torret, which is a lake. Loch is lake. And so we'll be visiting that. Let's do a little blue for our water. And we will have an amazing time with collapsible stools where we'll get to paint together and just enjoy looking at that lake, enjoy being in nature, and seeing the beautiful creations we can make while we're there visiting and being mindful. We'll also have several different on-site activities, including some Celtic storytelling around the fire, also some guitar playing, listening to that around the fire, and then having a sound bath, which is a beautiful, it's not a bath at all, except through sound. And so hearing different beautiful sounds as we are trying to be mindful and focus and concentrate on just being in the present. So that and so much more. Right now, we are going to have to let this dry, and then we'll come back and start building up our layers and our colors. So now that things are starting to be fairly dry, we can take our smaller brush. I've got a number 6 round, and I want to start using more concentrated paint to start building up my layers. I've got some brown here on the palette. It's okay if there's pink in there, we can use it. And you want to start taking, more intense color. So more paint, less water. Dab the brush to take off some of that extra water, and then I like to just start to add in a little bit of definition for this hill. Clean my brush, dab it, and then we can just start spreading this around. Just a little bit there. You can see the edge quite clearly. Over here, I want to have a nice edge too with the green. So grabbing some of my paint, and then with this one too, kind of dabbing in here. Maybe there's some trees or bushes in the distant hills here, and adding in some little crevices and marks. You don't have to be too detailed because it's just not necessary, especially as we're getting further into the distance. Definitely not as much of an issue. We've got our brown here, and I'm just going to start dabbing a little bit to add some of that in. And then clean damp brush, spread this out. And then also some green, putting that in. I like to add in these edges, right? So that we can define where one hill stops and the other one begins. This in the background here, that could be a whole different color. It could be kind of this gray blue color. It's a little bit of that, dabbing, and then just adding that in. So you don't have to keep the colors the same. you know, as your reference. You just kind of use color as inspiration. So over here, I am going to do some grasses and such, but I want to start adding in some concentrated paint here. So I've got this beautiful, like a sunny yellow, yellow green. And I'm just going to use the tip of my brush, start dabbing, adding in some marks here and there. You can even just kind of zigzag your brush along. And this is where we're building up our color. Building up our color, I'm going to put in a little bit more wet on wet to just darken up this hill here. And here. So we start to put in some different greens around. You can see I work quickly. I'm going to take some water and add in a few more marks. I've got this darker like sap green. So I'm just going to now stipple a little bit of green in there. So when you've got more details like in these hills, for this part here in the ground, it can just be really loose, really loose. Putting in some marks, some dry brushing too. And just adding that in as you see fit. A little bit more of this brown. And this is really dry on the brush, and so it's giving, if I just tap it like that, some nice dry brush effect, and that's really good for your landscape. You can even just go side by side or left and right, adding some dry brushing here too to the ground, which is really pretty. And another thing I like to do is add in some stones to darken up at the edge of the water. So I'm going to grab what I think is a darker brown here, a little bit of water so I can loosen this up. And I want to go fairly dark with this. So swirling the brush, dabbing, and then adding in little marks here, little dabs for some stones that maybe jut into the water. And that's going to give us some depth at the water's edge too, which end up making things look a little more realistic. So of course, working really fast, making this very loose version, tiny little bits at the water's edge here too. And just let it spread. I know it's still kind of wet. Maybe if you want to darken up right here at the edge of this hill, you can do that too. That's, you know, up to you. It's always about just layering little by little and kind of seeing what you like. I'm going to put some dark right here too, just to kind of differentiate this hill from this one. In this part, of course, I'm going to do a little bit here too. So I know it probably seems like a lot, but it's just about layering and figuring out what you want to add, what looks good. Little dabby marks. I like the different browns here and here. I think that's kind of fun. And now we're starting to see things come together really good. Clean damp brush. I'm going to grab some of this navy-ish color. It's really runny. I'm going to dab my brush, and then I'm just going to kind of scoot it along the water's edge here, where there might be some shadow or some darkness. Yeah, that would be the same thing. Some little lines where the water's moving, maybe hitting the rocks. And we don't want to keep forgetting about more of this retreat. This retreat is so exciting. I love painting with you guys. I love painting in person because it's a whole new experience that, you know, we just don't get to do very often. But it's at such a beautiful venue, and it's going to be relaxing, so green, lots of inspiration everywhere. And where we can take a deep breath and enjoy and, you know, just try some different things to paint and express and sketch and, you know, really take care of ourselves. So I want to add in some grasses, and you could use a liner brush for a thin mark if you have it. If you don't have it, you can use, just use what you got. This is the number 6. but we can try a smaller brush too. So I did find a number 1, and we're gonna see how this goes. So I wanna use some concentrated brown again for the grasses. It's always so beautiful to get out in nature and just paint, right? And we're gonna do these little flick marks from the bottom up. Just kind of seeing how thick I need this to be. Just making some little grass marks. I like to do them a little bit diagonal so that we've got some movement. But if you've never gone on a retreat before, no matter what you're thinking, it's a place to make new friends. It's a space to have uninterrupted painting time. And I think that was the part that I loved the most with all of it. With Italy, my other trips that I've done, is because you have this space for uninterrupted time just to create. And we did 8 painting classes the last 2 years, and we tried to do like 2-hour sessions, but people always stayed and painted up until lunch sometimes, or dinner, sometimes 3 hours, and then they'd come back in the evening and paint. And it's just an amazing space to like let your creativity run wild. Getting these little grasses in. I actually kind of like how they're turning out. There's some like dry brushing happening here, which is fun. And they're really light. If you want to go more concentrated, you're going to get more of obviously a darker mark. But this doesn't have to be perfect. And it's just for play, just for fun. So if you are in the middle of this, but you are still considering the retreat, friends, just click on that link. I promise you there's so much fun to be had. Share the link as well, because we are launching next Monday, and it's coming up so soon. Here's all my grasses. What I'd like to do is just a little bit of maybe this darkness here, just a really dark color, dab it. So maybe a black if you don't have navy, and I just want to add in a little bit more of that, like it's a little bit of a shadow underneath. And when you paint, just you're trying to figure out how to bring to life either something that you're looking at, or a reference photo, or something that is in front of you. Sometimes we get really anxious about what we're doing, and we've just got to take some breaths and remind ourselves it's just art, it's just paint. Let's take a clean damp brush and try to spread a little of that. If you don't like what you've painted, you can always start over. You can always do it again. You can always learn from what you did. It's not a mistake, it's a learning experience. And if you start to think like that, it's just much more encouraging. And it's easier to keep going and not feel so defeated. So there we go, friends. I wanted to paint the Scottish Highlands, give you a little glimpse, a little taste of what there is to see. Of course, nothing beats being in person and seeing the Scottish Highlands for themselves. Thanks so much for painting with me today, friends. This was really fun. I enjoyed this project a lot, and I hope you did too. Friends, I really hope you had fun painting this landscape with me. I don't do a ton of landscapes on this channel, but I think I want to do more because I know that you guys respond to it. I am so excited about registration opening very soon. So that's Monday if you're watching this on Friday when it's coming out here. The link below will get you to all the information that you need for the trip and what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing some watercolor and sketching, landscapes, flowers, objects, and so much more. Self-reflection, a little bit of journaling just to focus on some things, growth for ourselves. But if you click the link, you can learn more about the trip, and you can also get on the wait list for your preferred room space if you would like to. And it's just a nice way to get that locked down before we open up registration. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Let me know. Let me know what you want to see me paint next. And if you don't know what to paint after this video, then check this out, friends. Thank you so much for being here. Happy painting as always. Happy mental health, and I will see you soon. Bye.